All right, seeing the time to call the order and proceed to roll call. Carl Kaminsky.
President account for.
Bronco.
Here.
Mr. Ryder.
Here.
Mr. Sager.
Here.
Mr. Scala.
Present.
Van Bergen.
Here.
And Present, all accounted for. Call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion
Mr.
to.
Scala, Ms. Van Bergen seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, public comment, we have one. Adam?
You're faster than I am.
Good morning. This is my first public speaking, so I'm sorry if I seem a little nervous and whatnot.
That's okay.
Yeah, as an engineer, I'm usually tucked away in an office somewhere and not in front of a bunch of people, thankfully. So, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the Charles Road and the Queen Anne improvements that have been raised. Yes.
Yeah, could you state your full name for minutes and where you're from?
Oh, Adam, I'd rather not give my last name if possible. And then,
Okay.
I was born and raised in Woodstock.
Okay.
So, and like myself, Queen Anne and Charles, I've navigated that. My grandparents lived on that land right there on the corner. I've navigated that land for 20 plus years at that intersection, never had a problem with it. And so does thousands upon thousands of other people that go through that intersection. Are there accidents? Absolutely. And some of them are fatal, yes, but they're not at the actual intersection. The public meeting that was handled or done on April 2nd, it seemed like that was more of the county trying to get the public on board with their solution as a roundabout instead of actually offering a potential slew of different solutions. And from their displays that they presented, it seemed like a bias towards a roundabout in general. The crash information that was included on the curve right after the intersection of Charles, where some of the fatal accidents happened, was actually also included sheriff deputies that were speeding through the area, probably on the way to a call. But those are professional policemen that are actually trained to handle curves and still left the roadway. There are other accidents where people just weren't paying attention during that point and left the roadway and have also lost their life. To include those accidents into the general intersection crash data seems to be misleading the public. And as it didn't decipher the two, it only had a little bit of information on the boards. And I wish there would be clarity provided to the public in that aspect. The three alternatives that were given to the public, there was a display that had a bunch of check marks on them, and lo and behold, the roundabout seemed to save the world. It had all the green check marks, even though it had a price tag of $3 million to the taxpayers of this county and the state. So why not 45 miles an hour? Why not do a speed reduction on the land, or on the Charles Road right there? In 2014, a study was performed by McHenry Department of Transportation, and it was suggested to the county board that the speed reduction be reduced down to 50 miles an hour through that area, through the corridor. It was voted down by the county board members, Diane Everston and Kenneth Kohler. Sorry, I think I got those names wrong. And the speed limit was still maintained at 55 miles an hour.
Adam?
Yes.
I have to ask you to wrap it up pretty quick. I'll
Okay.
give you a couple,
I'm sorry.
little
Okay.
bit, because we have a limit on time.
Oh, good. So if we do drop to 45 miles an hour, it's 36 seconds more that it'll take people to go from Greenwood all the way to 47. Not much. Roundabouts don't always stop accidents. There's still been 15 accidents at Raffle. The cyclists that do the CAG meeting got it wrong. There are cyclists on Queen Anne all the time throughout the year. Lighting, we live in the country for a reason. The lighting at Raffle Road is atrocious. It looks like a Walmart parking lot. Taxes, with grabbing people's land, is our taxes going to be affected by it? Are we going to lose land, but taxes are still going to be raised? The price tag of this is, like I said, $3 million. I'm asking you guys to be fiscally responsible. Stop that mentality of If we don't use it, we lose it kind of thing. If we don't use it, it goes back into the funds. It can go somewhere else and be used. Veterans, homeless people, starving kids.
I have
One more.
Okay.
And then solutions, what I'm proposing, 45-mile-an-hour reduction in speed, enforcement from the sheriff's office, solar lighting on the stop signs and rumble strips coming up too, and then also a guardrail on the curve. So I thank you for your time and consideration, and hopefully you guys actually take this into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Jim, we have one more person that wants to make public comment that just came in.
Okay, if you want to make, go ahead, come on up and state your name. And
Hi, my name is Candy Ford. I apologize for being late. And my paperwork is at home, so I'm going to ad-lib this. I live on the northwest corner of Charles and Queen Anne. I know the danger there. I know many accidents that have been there. I have been out there many times, the first person to help people. I'm asking that this does not get put in. Maybe eventually in the future it might need to be done, but right now it seems like you're doing surgery because somebody skinned their knee. Do a little bit of I don't know what you call it. Lower the speed limit. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. When the bus garage went on Raffle Road, that speed limit automatically should have gone down to 45. But nobody wanted to do that. We lost one employee because the speed limit was so high. She was involved in an accident. She is now unable to work for the rest of her life. If you lower the speed limit, people are going to say, I don't want to go 45, they'll go down 120 where the speed limit is 55, and you have traffic control. Start small, lower the speed limit, see if that works. You're taking away our quality of life. We're going to have all the lights there, we're going to have a retention pond there. I want to know what's going to happen to my well. Is the county board going to pay for my well if my well gets polluted? Because you're only about 100 feet from my well now. What's going to happen to my taxes? Are my taxes going to stay the same and I still have less land? I know that this group here has recommended that the speed limit be lowered and the county board has ignored you consistently. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I'm nervous.
it's okay.
I just think that there is another solution, and that should be looked into before you decide that you're going to disrupt that corner, disrupt everybody's lives, and
Thank you.
we don't want it. I'm sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Jim, if it's okay, Mary Donovan also wants to make public comment.
I was actually going to try to keep my mouth shut this time. I don't know.
Well, we'll let you keep your record going.
It's going to be very short, I promise.
Okay.
I'm Mary Donner.
He's got the clock going.
Start it over again. Not fair. No.
Thank you for your comments, Mary.
Mary Donner, 2536 Verdi Street, Woodstock, Illinois. I'm here today actually because I was reading the paper yesterday on the possible
Merger.
good word, the merger of Pace, Metra, and CTA. I see Ken's here for Metra. I was Pace. I was hoping Ed would be here today, but apparently not. So I'm against it as a former Pace employee. We've got enough problems with the people that we have and the amount of representation the counties have. It's going to be worse if it's a super conglomerate. Because if 5 come from Pritzker, 5 come from Chicago, 5 come from the Cook County, and then you've got the 5 other counties getting 1 each, we'll never get anything. And I worry about MC Ride and the kind of transportation we're going to have available to us when that merger, or if that merger happens. They've been talking about it a long time, but they have a $730 million bust coming up in a year. I thought it was 2 years, but apparently they're talking now 2, maybe. We don't know.
Not us,
Not you. No, it's coming up. We've always been, Pace has always been very fiscally responsible. We want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, seeing no further public comment, we'll move to member comments. Any members have comments? Mr. Scott?
Well, you know, things are starting to grow and people are cutting grass, and I would just kindly ask again that homeowners that are on cutting grass do not blow the grass onto the roads. We have it just out here right in front. There's grass all over the road, and it just creates an unsafe condition for especially motorcyclists. And, you know, I would just ask that they blow the grass back into the grass instead of onto the roadways.
Thank you.
Public service announcement.
Anyone else? All right, seeing no further member comments, let's move down to the routine consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull any items off? Mr. Scala?
Just because I always do, salt.
Okay.
Bad for your heart, Mike.
Anybody else? Okay, so do I have a motion, Mr. Scala?
I'll motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6.
Okay, is there, Mr. Sager seconds? And any discussion before we go to the vote on those? Okay, I'll start with Mr. Scala.
Yes.
Ms. Van Bergen.
Yes.
Mr. Sager.
Yes.
Mr. Reiner.
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel.
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay, do we have a motion for 5.5? Mr. Scala moves.
Second.
Mr. Sager seconds. Okay, Mike, go on.
So I was appreciative of the fact that you have the range that you were looking at for the salt, which kind of takes into account if we have I'll say a more aggressive winter than what we have had for the past 5 years, because that's kind of what you were basing it on. And so I appreciate the fact that we could go down to as low as 40, which would be great. 4,000.
4,000, yes.
If we had another winter like we had last year, even at the 4,000, it seems like we would still run out of space. Meaning we wouldn't be able to store it over the summer.
We could handle the 4,000 probably.
Probably,
If we have the same winter.
if we had the
You
same winter.
predicted, yes.
Okay,
Because we used around 4,000 this year. So we'd be taking 4,000 out of that dome, which is full right now,
yep,
and putting the 4,000 back.
okay,
And that's how we came up with that number.
got it. That's it.
And Mr. Scala guarantees next winter.
All right,
I haven't been wrong for 5 years at least.
see how easy you are this morning? Okay, well, if nothing else, let's proceed to vote. Mr. Sager?
Yes.
Mr. Scala?
Yes.
Ms. Van Bergen?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel?
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries. New business, our presentation from County Kohler, Metro update.
Say you need it back. What? Say you need it back.
I'm going to try to keep this brief, but I know I never am, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. At your positions, you're finding a lot of homework that I brought with me today. I did not bring copies of the Woodstock layover that you might have gotten if you went to the meeting. However, what I did bring is a complete slide deck, which gives you a lot more information than what was actually given at that first meeting. So you'll have that. In addition, copy of My Metro, the most recent one, which is our first quarter. It's really a great item to be able to learn a lot about Metro and see some nice things that are going around the system that we have. And then the last thing I brought was our Metro 2023 accomplishments. And some of that you'll see in the magazine if you read both. But they're good homework when you have time to sit down and read them. So, Metro. Basically, when we have meetings, it's all about sustainability. And you've heard me talk about that before. It's even more critical now than it's ever been before. As you know, it's all about funding, but it's also about tickets, and it's about the number of people that are riding the trains and that passenger revenue. So we continue to work forward in talking about sustainability. I want to talk a little bit about our accomplishments in 2023. Oh, by the way, I did bring you you've all gotten this before, but a reminder what our new ticketing is. So when it comes to what we did last year, we had 191,071 train trips in the entire system. We were 94.7% on time, and for a system as large as Metro, which is 11 lines, that's quite an accomplishment. Our goal is higher than that, but with circumstances beyond our control, and one that I'm not going to talk a lot about, but it's suicide that really causes a lot of time loss, and that affects it. You've seen, I think, our new logo that says My Metro. My Metro is all about safety and reliability and getting people to a place on time. Our 23 achievements, going down and just basically reading them off, we accomplished our 2023 to 27 strategic plan. It's called On Track to Excellence. Basically, we're moving forward with a more regional concept than we've had before, which actually means we're going to have more trains during the day going in both directions. I think if you ride the Northwest line, you've seen that and are able to at least get home sometimes in the middle of the day rather than waiting for a 3 o'clock train. We have the new fare implementation that took effect February 1st. The first day was a fiasco. Unfortunately, I'm going to blame that on the CTA because the system that we use for our ticketing is actually tied into the CTA and I believe PACE as well. But once we got it accomplished, I think you'll find that what we have now is a much easier to understand, a fair way of having fares, let me put it that way. We went from 10 zones down to 4. Realistically, it's actually 3 zones because the number 1 zone is just the Chicago stations. So it's less complicated. I think if you look at what we're charging, the amount of money people are paying for tickets or for the monthly passes are very, very, very fair. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have increases in fares in the future. Obviously, with our costs going up, we'll have to do that. But right now, I think this is a good way of setting up the zones. And I will tell you that I fought hard to get rid of those 10 zones and making something that was much easier to do. We also have some new fare products, and again, I talked about the pricing. We did catch some grief because we got rid of the 10-day pass, and instead we've got a 5-day pass that gets you in and back. So it does the same thing. Most of the reason for that is we had problems collecting fares because people were cheating, and so this accomplishes that not happening. We have a new Metro tracker system. I don't know if any of you used it. If you haven't, get the app. If you're taking the train, it's great. Just to the minute when the trains will be there if there's a delay. We have a transit ambassador program that we've put in place so that we have people available at certain stations to help people understand the new ticketing and making sure that they get the best, the best buy, you might say, for traveling into the city. We've continued to try to upgrade our electronic signage, which has been a problem, but we're doing that on a I guess you want to say, a slow paces of getting it to the different stations. That is an ongoing item that we were doing. New ticket vending machines. If you go to the station today, you probably won't see that the man or lady selling tickets anymore, because we're going to handle this with both your Metro app to be able to get tickets, online through your phone or through the vending machines. Some of you may remember the Fair Transit program that was operated through Cook County, subsidized by Cook County. It was on the south side. It was 2 lines. It went well. It went really well. And it didn't bring to light. We knew we had this problem all along, but we have a lot of disadvantaged individuals that want to use the system and just can't afford it. So we try to work out a new program. RTA was very helpful with what we wanted to do. And so now we have the Fair Transit program. And so any person that is on the SNAP program qualifies for that. So they'll get the half-price ticket. Again, I don't have data yet on how well that's going, but we feel it's probably the fairest thing that could have been done across, system-wide. So we're very, very happy and excited about that. A big one for people, especially in McHenry County, I think, is that we've expanded the bike program. During COVID, we loosened up, and there was no problem with people getting on bikes on trains because we didn't have the number of people riding. Now that people are coming back, we still have a lot of people that use that as their last mile going into the city. You would be surprised at the number of bikes and scooters that are now on the train. So we're doing things to kind of promote that, to help it along, because when I sat in this room, as you guys, we talked about the last mile a lot, and this is just one solution. What it means is you can take a bike on the train or a scooter, any train, all day long. The only thing is if we've maxed out on the space for the bikes, unfortunately, then you can't put a bike on. We're promoting the rails, trails, and ales, which would get bikers on the weekends out for some fun and a little frolic. So that's a big thing. And I think with McHenry County having the trails that we have in the conservation district property, this is absolutely ideal for people in the city to be coming back out this way and using our bike trails. I think you're familiar, many of you, because we took you on the field trip on our in-house rehab program for our rail cars. We have surpassed $172 million in savings to Metro by having that program. Not only that, we've created many, many, many good paying jobs in the process. So we feel that that's a tremendous success, that there isn't very many rail systems in the United States that can tout that type of thing. In addition, we've rebuilt, I can't remember the number for sure, but our F-40 locomotives, which again is a big savings to us. by doing the rebuilds in-house. We've got, again, providing jobs, but more importantly, saving money as we do that. One thing that really excited me, because I like to ride in the engines, and I get to do that. That's one of the privileges that I am for the job that I'm doing. We took delivery on 7 of the SD70 Mach train engines, which were rebuilt. This is how we save money. We buy rebuilt stuff. We've got a total of 15 on an order, so we've got about another 8 that are going to come in. And then we have the option to purchase 27 more. Now, why am I kind of excited about that? Not that it means a lot, but we meet the Tier 3 EPA standards on emissions, and we hear about emissions all the time, so that's a real good product for us to have in our lineup of engines. We're looking in a forward movement to be doing conversions on our entire diesel fleet, going from AC to DC traction. That may not mean a lot to anybody. I'm told, and I have to believe what I'm told, that it's more durable and it's more reliable. So those are the kind of things that we're looking forward on. We've completed 2 of the 3 design stages on the new Alstrom cars that we have on order. So the first 200 would be a part of that. We probably won't see them until either the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026. But that'll be the first new cars of that type that we'll have, other than our electric line, which we redone several years ago. We have an option to buy 300 more, depending on funding. That could happen. So again, that's an exciting thing for Metro to get rid of some of those ancient cars that we have. So some other excitement is Metro won some of the largest grants in the history of Metro last year. We secured $289 million in discretionary grants, $117 million for the UP North Bridge project, replacement project, $169.3 million for our first ever zero emissions electric train sets. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not one of the persons that are excited about the electric. I'm going to believe it when I see it and how they operate, but we were able to do it because the funding came forward, and we feel that we need to try it. It'll go on some of our shorter lines and ones with less station stops to start with anyway. The big thing for myself, and it is important for the entire Metro system, is that we initiate a new finance committee. We've never had a finance committee per se. I'll tell you that I'm lucky enough to be chairman. I don't know if that's luck or a little bit more pain, but it's something that we really needed to do. I'll give you some idea, and I won't go very deep in this, but for the first 3 months of the year, our year-to-date operating revenue was $55.8 million. That was down from what we budgeted by $9.1 million. Again, it's ticketing, it's the ridership. The ridership is still not where we projected it to be. On the positive side, though, our operating expense was down, and we were at $251 million. So we were about $19.2 million favorable on operating expenses. So we ended up having an operating deficit of $10.1 million. Now, why is that important? It sounds terrible, but why is it important? These are big numbers. The COVID relief funding that we got that PACE got, that the CTA got. We have been very careful on how that money is been used. So when you hear about the fiscal cliff, which is truthfully there, we're at least making that not happen as soon as it could for Metro. So for the first quarter, we're $10.1 million less in spending in regards to that COVID relief money. Our, let's see, our passenger revenue, I talked about that. Year to date, it's 3 points, it's down, I'm getting this wrong. 850,000 riders less than what we had budgeted for. So, there is a concern. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. These numbers that I'm going to give you are as of April 24th, so last week, on a Wednesday. And the way the ridership is going these days is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A little bit more coming up on Mondays, and Friday, forget it. Everybody wants to stay home on Fridays now, so those numbers are low. But for that Wednesday, the UP Northwest, our line, we had 27,460 passengers. That compared to COVID is about 69%. So again, we're creeping up. A comparison, the UP North, same day, 29,825 passengers. For them, that was 85%. So again, these numbers are creeping up. Our number one line in the system, which is the BNS line, they had 42,540 passengers. So they're at 68%. So based on the line and what the numbers have been, we're beating them by 1%. But system-wide, we had 185,810 passengers, so we were at 67%. So we're getting there. Will we ever get back to 100%? I don't think so. But we're attracting a lot of new riders. We're trying to do more to attract college students, which we do have now, of high school students that do get some free rides to their schools and things like that. But we're trying to come up with programs that will intensify these people wanting to use Metro, because we do have a system that provides safe and normally timely arrival. Into some of the things that you might be more interested in. Okay, the Woodstock layover yard. If it wasn't for people like Scott Henning, and really this committee, years ago, committing some funds towards this project, it wouldn't be going where it is today. So it's moving slow, I admit. Everything, I guess, moves slow in government, right? But we had our first hearing, or I shouldn't say hearing, we had our first public presentation last month, and it was well received. So some of you there, for the meetings that I've attended on any type of public project, I've never seen so many people attend. So we were very happy to see that. I don't have any comments to share with you at this point because they're still analyzing all that stuff. But what I want to say is that you've got this, please look it over. It's a lot better than the handout that originally was handed out at that meeting. It's important to understand that there will be 7 storage tracks for our trains. So there will be 2 train sets to each track. That's 14 trains that will be available past the city of Woodstock. This is a huge economic driver that will help Woodstock grow. It's also going to be providing more express trains, which when we're living out in this area, makes a big difference when you want to get into Chicago. I'm not going to guarantee coming back out, because I'm not sure how that's going to work yet, but I can guarantee you going in will be a lot better time that it will take to get to the city. There would be 2 equipment tracks, there would be maintenance building. It ultimately could allow for 21 additional trips per day. And that's a lot of trips, folks. It will make a big difference. You know, we're probably, from the standpoint of the communities along the Northwest line, we've probably got the greatest growth and the greatest opportunity. So this all makes a tremendous amount of sense to do this. The other thing that I think is kind of neat about this project is Jeff Young, you know, who was the former assistant county engineer, is the lead on this project. So that can't do anything but help us, because he does understand what's going on around there. The next thing is the Rockford commuter project. I've got mixed feelings about that project. The governor allocated $300 million to do this. I personally, along with another board member, snuck out and rode that line from Elgin, Big Timber, all the way out to Rockford. It's a very interesting trip. There is a lot of track replacement that will have to take place, especially from Belvedere to Rockford. You talk about riding on a rickety old railroad. You know, sitting in a pickup truck that, you know, rides the rail and seeing what you're riding in, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. It's okay for the freights, they're running at 30, 35 miles an hour, but they want us to be able to run at 79 miles an hour. Now, I can tell you that I don't anticipate that they're going to be running 79 miles an hour in these areas through Rockford and coming, you know, down to Belvedere. There's a lot of population there that are close to the trains. From what I understand, I talked to Jason Osborne the other day, and many of you remember Jason because he was an employee here. And he is the IDOT representative that's handling this project. So again, I think that's going to help us out. He lives in McHenry County. He certainly is somebody that cares about McHenry County and McDOT. The stops, for people that don't know, for that line would be Rockford, Belvedere, Huntley, Elgin, and then express to downtown Chicago. They were talking an hour and a half. Again, that all depends on the speed of the train. IDOT is the lead on this project. They're funding this project. The only thing that Metro will do on this project is run the trains. There'll be 2 trains in and 2 trains out. At least that's the plan right now. And depending, like I say, on crossings and the upgrading of the rail trackage, you know, we might be able to accomplish the 79 miles an hour. So, but to say an hour and a half, I think they're looking more like an hour 45 an hour.
Does that go anywhere near or through Marengo, Ken? I mean, is there future?
Well, there's press in the room, and I'm not going to talk about what my thoughts are about it, because I'd only be speculating, and I don't want things to get misinterpreted. There would be a siding in Marengo initially, so that if there's passing freights and the passengers, that they have a siding for, you know, time on or whatever. So that's the only thing I know right now about Maringo. The UP, they've been very cooperative in looking at the crossings. There's a lot of rural crossings on this line. And the unfortunate thing is that when you do a project like this, yes, there could be some funding for the public crossings, like let's say downtown Union will have to be upgraded. There's several spots that near the Railroad Museum, things like that that'll have to be upgraded. But they don't pay for a crossing that's owned by an individual. So if the individual, for instance, would want a light of some sort, they would have to pay for it. Unfortunately, there's quite a few places where there's a crossing from a resident to an adjacent road that's going to go across it. In fact, there's one close to the Railroad Museum where they're actually crossing two tracks, which one is the museum's track and one of them is UP's track. And it's the visibility is difficult. So, I have concerns about that type of thing, and that's things that actually IDOT and Jason will be dealing with. But from what I'm told, they've already surveyed all of these locations, so at least they've got an updated list of where these are. Riding through Rockford, seriously downtown, there's a lot to be concerned about at those intersections that we're running, faster trains. When they're running freights, we're probably doing 30 miles an hour. We're going to run at least 50. So there's going to be a lot of things needed for $300 million to cover it. I'm not so sure it will. The good news, in my opinion, is the fact that they're going to start from Elgin. They'll make that switching over to allow these trains then to head up towards Rockford. And so the build out will probably be from there out. So places like Huntley, I think we're going to see a station and something that might be working sooner or later. But it would depend on where they would spot the trains in the meantime. So I don't have an answer for a lot of things. People have asked me about the bridge over the Rock River, and there's concern about that because if that has to be rebuilt, we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. My comment has been, well, if a freight can go over, why couldn't a passenger train? But I guess some of our engines weigh more than some of the engines that the UP uses. So again, my answer to that was, well, let's use the right engines and then we can get over the bridge. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. So that's what I know about that. Mary Donner mentioned the fiscal cliff. Yes, it's out there, and they're talking about $730 million to be available if the state legislature does something. Quite honestly, you can't, pull this money out of the air to make this happen. If it wasn't for COVID relief money, we wouldn't be operating today, at least at the capacity that we are. So, as you mentioned, if this goes through the way they're talking about governance, I think that it'll be a real problem for Metro. And we'd be going from representation in the Collar counties where we have 3 people, one to the RTA, one to Metro, and one to PACE, down to just 5. And Brian, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm concerned, but there's not much I can do about it. It's up to governmental entities like yourself to make that decision and put the pressure on Springfield basically leave it the way it is. If it happens, you know, my concern again goes back to funding. It's nice to hear that we're maybe going to see that kind of money, but we all know realistically that it probably will be going to the CTA for the majority of it. And fiscally, I think we run our house a lot better than the CTA does. Those are my only comments on that. In the month of July, there's going to be 2 safety blitzes in McHenry County, one in Crystal Lake and one in Foxwood Grove. Those are really important for the train safety issues that we have. And then the terrible tragedy that took place earlier in the year with a young lady from Barrington High School. They're going to be doing a major blitz there, and we have been doing a lot of interaction with the high school and with the mayor in regards to the safety. Unfortunately, I can tell you this young lady had earbuds in, and she was looking at her cell phone as she walked into the train. The train only makes so much noise coming. Usually all you'll hear is a bell ringing and a horn. And if you got earbuds in, I'm sorry, you're not going to hear what's going on. So that was very, very tragic. And we're trying to do a lot of information to the students at Barrington High School in regards to the safety and, you know, being very aware that if there's tracks, there could be a train. And the other part of this is, and this is where we have a lot of accidents, is we have a train that just disembarks people. They start going across one of the walkways. Unfortunately, there's a train coming the other way. And if it's an express, I'm sorry, it's all over. It's all over. So those blitzes are important. And then the last item I have is that I'm trying to get a Metro Board meeting out to McHenry County. We're looking at maybe August, September, or October. It's kind of a big initiative to do that. We want to do it in the city of Woodstock. We have done one before at the county building years ago, but with all the things that are going on with the yard and that, I would like to see it happen in Woodstock. So that's what we're working on. And of course, you all would be invited, and it would be a pleasure to see you. So with that, do you have any questions that I can try to answer?
Well, I'm going to open this up to everyone. I'm sure we've got some
Sure.
questions. Start with John.
Yeah, you know, regarding the merger, Ken, do you have any other information that we can get available other than the press releases?
You know,
I'm really discouraged to see that.
Yeah, John, we've really, from the standpoint of our board, we just get informed. Most of the stuff is been out there with the COGS and stuff like that. The mayors and former mayors sitting in the room don't like it. I mean, this is not a good thing for equal representation. We finally got the numbers working, you know, with representation from all the collars, both on, you know, the RTA, on Metro, and on PACE. And again, it's really up to the municipalities, it's up to the counties to put pressure on the state and say, this is not a good thing for us.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be a good thing for the city of Chicago. It'll be a good thing for Cook County. But as much as, you know, we as Metro give a lot of service to Cook County, we still have the people like here in Henry County that deserve as much of that representation.
I agree. I'm glad that you're a part of it. The other two is, you know, proud Ventra, you know,
Yeah.
you use it once in a while
Yeah.
even. And then the bikes and pubs, you had mentioned that. I mean, I'm sure we'll be able to, I could go online for that, but.
Yeah, or you know, if you're not getting this, you know, I'll try to, if people want this sent to their house, give me your names and addresses and I'll try to have it. But this is your best resource for what's happening on that.
Thanks, man.
You know, the last time they did it, I think it was down in the Joliet area. So, but they're trying to make this happen, you know, every year, so looking.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, Ken, thank you so much for coming today, and I'm not letting you off the hook yet.
Okay.
But I think now's the time with this merger discussion that we brought up.
Sure.
And we didn't have time to actually have that on our agenda for discussion, but I think we can discuss it right here under the new business with your presentation, since you brought up the discussion. And so, part of my thoughts is, I think it's this question of our representation in our county is going to be totally lost. We'll have no say. One vote isn't going to mean a thing for these counties. And I personally feel that we should, as a county board, committee and county board, maybe put forward or review putting forward a resolution opposing this.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if we can take that action right now of asking Scott or get some word forward on this and write something up for the board, put it on the board meeting, this coming meeting.
Right, I have, I have a standing meeting with Chairman Bueller on Mondays, and I've added that to our agenda, developing a kind of a position on this topic, so I'll share that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead.
I don't think there's any question we want to develop a position. I don't know that how rapidly it needs to occur. I don't think this is going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
There's a lot of things we thought in the state would happen in the last 2 weeks, and happens in the middle of the night.
I appreciate that,
And so
Charlie.
I'm very concerned on this. That it happens.
We are.
The governor wants this to happen, and so it could happen in the middle of the night with the supermajority that they have now. I don't mean to cut you short of that. I think we need to move on this.
I think we need to develop a position, and we can absolutely have something for your board meeting on third Tuesday of May.
Okay?
What I was going to mention is that there have been a lot of letters that have been sent. The COGS have been very active in that. The mayor's councils have been very active in that. So a lot of that's been out there. The more the merrier, especially now that it's in Springfield. As you can see, the governor is having issue with the person that's running the CTA. And you're right, that kind of thing could spear a lot of things if they don't listen to what he's saying. So, yes, I'm like you, I'm a little bit more concerned than I was before, but I think that there has to be, some real thought given in Springfield as what this means. One of the things that could happen is that, for instance, we have so many different unions within Metro that we have to deal with. They're not the same unions that are with the CTA, and I don't know for sure what PACE has, but to deal with all these unions on the basis that we have to deal with them, it ain't gonna be an easy, thing for any of them to do. And when you start, the railroad labor is a strong group, and if you don't work the right way, things can happen that are gonna either slow down or limit, transportation.
I'm a little concerned also, Ken, that the debt service for this whole organization is going to be pushed because we have lower representation.
And
It's
it'll
going to be
kill
pushed down to the
Woodstock.
counties.
It'll kill Woodstock Yard if this MMA takes over, because they're gonna be concerned with taking care of the CTA's bulk load of debt, not the future, not growth here.
And Matt, I'm concerned about that, but the good news is that this project is in our box of working on it right now. So it's something that we, as Metro, will be seeking federal funding. You can't do something like this without mega dollars. I mean, it's easy to throw out money, but it's gonna be $80 to $100 million easy for the development of that segment. So in our budget, in our capital plan, we could not afford that without getting, federal funding. The good news is that this meets a lot of the criteria for federal funding. And so in a good world, and who knows what that is anymore, we could probably find the funding for it over a period of time. So once we get through this NEPA process, which takes, unfortunately, a lot of time, we at least can identify the property. And once we get the property and purchase the property, which we thought we could do ahead of the NEPA process, we couldn't, at least we've got our foot in the ground. The other thing that is really great is that this group from transportation has fostered putting some money into the pot. This is how we got things done with some of the interchanges down in Huntley, by doing cooperation between other government entities. And I want to tell you unequivocally that this project is so important to Woodstock as far as their future development. This will really make it easy for people to get into downtown Chicago from Woodstock. If you take the train from Woodstock today, you know it's not that easy. The trains don't run on a regular, what I would call regular schedule, and mostly milk runs. So,
But if that's important to Ms. Practical.
pardon me?
But if that's important to Ms. Practical,
That's a problem.
That's
a
my
problem.
point.
That's a problem.
that's my point.
That's a problem. The one thing I can tell you about Toni Preckwill is that she is a real good proponent of Metro. She's always been a strong proponent. She put millions of dollars into that South Cook project, and it worked. But she did it because she wanted to see if we could, help the people that are more in need. And that's why we've got this new program, this type of this, SNAP. I don't know if there's a better way to do that than that, but it's at least a start. So, but, I don't disagree, Matt, with what you're saying. But that's why projects like this are, being put out there.
Well, put me on the skeptical list and we'll
I
move on.
understand, I totally understand that, but it is in the queue for us as far as moving forward. I mean, we've spent millions of dollars right now just to get it into the NEPA process. And the other thing is, regardless of what happens, we really can see something I personally believe happen in Huntley with this line. When? I think the state's going to move a lot faster than what we normally move on this. So, but where will 300 million take you? I'm not so sure I would say past.
That's all we need.
So I'm excited for Huntley. It's a long time coming. When I was county board chairman, you wouldn't believe how many conversations we had with the city of Huntley in regards to getting this done. It was just, how do you put the magic together? And we went back and forth between different projects that the state wanted to fund, and with the governor, you never knew where you were at the time. The political will to do whatever. But this would not be happening if it wasn't for the city of Rockford and the fact that the mayor wants to see this transportation. I think it's a good idea. Do I think it's a great idea? No, I think it's a good idea. But it's not going to be, 2 trains a day, 2 in, 2 out. That's not commuter rail. that's, I want to go to downtown for something and, hope I can get home. So we'll see. But if it can bring something to McHenry County, I'm for it. Especially when the dime is on the state of Illinois and that, we've already paid that money to Springfield. So if it's coming back some way to us, it's a good thing. May not be the best way to spend money, but it's a good thing for us.
Okay, I'm gonna move down this side of the table. Anybody on this side have any questions? Okay, Mike?
The only comment I would make is I think it's good to have a position paper about how we feel about merging. I want to caution that it shouldn't just be, we don't want it, because that's not helpful. I think, representation is critical to us, and under its current theoretical position of how it's going to be, I would say that would be a huge negative for the Collier counties, not just McHenry County, but all the Collier counties. But just throwing it out there that we don't want it, without saying that what we would like, I think would be more important.
Agree.
And that's better stated than my long pause. I would urge a response that kind of acknowledges some change needs to happen. We are very concerned about the CTA debt and very concerned about representation, and those two are interlocked in some respects. But there are a number of good changes in this proposal that need to happen.
Some more information would be really, really helpful rather than, and I appreciate the Northwest Herald's bringing it out to us, because I don't think we'd be talking about it without that. But, taking a position on it is definitely important also. But more information would be much, much appreciated.
Okay,
I-
Ken?
Yeah, Mike Scala hit it on the head. This change is going to happen. This fiscal cliff isn't just the CTA, it's Metro. And today, this is public transportation. It unfortunately has to be subsidized. We're doing very, very well on sales tax. We're exceeding what we have budgeted and anticipated. Why is that? Because a couple of years ago, they decided that we're going to finally collect sales tax on items that are ordered online. Those dollars are huge dollars. And so consequently, it makes the money that we have coming, because the RTA, sales tax is important to our operation. So that's good, but there is a huge fiscal cliff out there, more with the CTA, but once we run out of the money, the COVID money, what are we gonna do? We're gonna close that gap by decreasing the number of trains that we run a day? Do we take a line and we just say, we're not coming that line anymore? Those are the hard questions that are going to come forward, and we're going to have to make those decisions.
I agree with you on that. But I think the loss of the representation, I think, is part of should be one of our main focuses, that we're not going to have any say in this. Thus, there's no squeaky wheel anymore.
Right now,
We worked so hard against Ryan and everything, and that's going to be gone. Possibly, but Brian, I'll let you in on this one.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a huge discussion, but I want to first just ask the attorney, is it okay for us to continue discussion along these lines since it's been introduced just as a discussion item? It's not specifically on the agenda.
Yeah, I believe so, since it was brought up during the presentation.
All right, thank you. And my apologies, actually to Alicia and to Matt and to Peter, because I know that you all heard my diatribe the other day, and I don't want to make this a diatribe today. I'm going to try to make this constructive because I'm mindful of the fact that we have media representation here, so I'm going to try to temper my dismay. But I think we need to realize a couple of background things. The first is that the state of Illinois as a state is one of the lowest supporters of public transit systems of any state that has a major metropolitan area. You're talking about New York and Los Angeles and Texas and, Illinois. Illinois is one of the lowest. No different than, frankly, with education. The state of Illinois has obligations with regards to funding education and falls woefully short on that, and it has fallen woefully short in the transit system. So we talk about the fiscal cliff, and it is true that there is a fiscal cliff there because of that lack of state support for transit overall. So the big background picture here is that Illinois needs to up its game significantly if we expect to have efficient, fiscally responsible transit services. One. The second thing is that this has been accelerated in terms of financial concerns, certainly with regards to COVID. No question about that. That really put a nosedive in terms of the demand and therefore the revenue. And so that's a huge part of it. But there was a trend in this direction anyway, right? I mean, it was moving that direction with transit because of today's workforce environment and other things. But the COVID really hit us hard in that. So we are facing a fiscal cliff. That fiscal cliff is in 2026, and it is in the tune of $730 million right now. That's not new news. That's been there for quite some time. We understand that. So there's been an effort to try to work with the legislature to address this. Understandably, because of the amount of money that is required for transit. I mean, we're talking about $1 million railroad engines. We're talking about huge costs in terms of not just our rolling stock, but with our underlying infrastructure of rail lines and that type of thing, and of course personnel. And so there is a huge demand for dollars. The state is looking right now, because we are going to the state and we're saying we've got to do something, not just for this reduction now or the loss of the ARPA funds, because that's going to run out at the end of 25. So now we're looking at 26. That's when the cliff is going to be there. But there's a whole host of things that have brought that on, and we need to understand that. But this also created the opportunity for us to go to the state and say, this isn't something you can continue to put off. You're going to have to now decide, are you going to be a state with a major metropolitan area that's going to have an adequate, not only adequate, but a growth-oriented transit system, or are you not? And so they're forced to ask that question. Rightfully so. They are looking, if we're going to add more money from the state, we're going to look at organizational efficiencies. And there's nothing wrong with that, as Micah stated. That's absolutely appropriate. They're looking at, and the bill that's been presented in House Bill 5828 looks at $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Now everybody thinks, wow, that should take care of the whole problem for the next 35 years. Yeah, it ain't gonna happen, But they are looking at $1.5 billion additional money from the state into the transit systems, not just at a one-time shot, but on a routine basis. So then the question becomes, how do they pay for that, right? Well, there's only one place the money comes from, and that's from us, right? So one of the things that is being considered, and there are many things that are being considered, but one of the things that are being considered, which just came out pretty forthrightly today from the governor's office, and that's a service tax. Nobody likes to talk about taxes, but a service tax is one of the options which is out there. There are others, but that's the current proposal, is 1.5 billion interjection into transit, which would be very welcome. In kind of a quid pro quo for that, the state wants to say our money is being oversighted appropriately. They're saying we need to have some change to the oversights. And so they're looking, the one proposal which is on the table right now, which is in HB 5823, that's the bill that was introduced on Monday, and that bill is looking at organizational structure where we move away from all of the separate boards and we move to a combined MEMA. It's called Metropolitan Mobility Authority. And so that Act 5823 is out there for consideration right now. And that would ultimately, I mean, it's a huge act, so let's not try to diminish it into just a couple pages. It's a huge act. But the meat of that is that MMA would have, as a board of directors, 5 representatives from the city of Chicago, 5 representatives from Cook County, suburban Cook County, 3 representatives appointed by the governor's office, and 1 each from the 5 collar counties. The other really significant element about this is that business would be conducted priority financial project on the basis of a simple majority. That's a huge issue. Now, as Ken has effectively pointed out, and as Mary Donner has pointed out, Mary and McPace, we have 3 representatives. I serve on the RTA board, Ken on the Metro board, and Aaron Smith on the PACE board. If we went to one entity, we have 1 representative. That's reducing our impact. I'm going to set aside the whole issue about the lack of capacity and, frankly, knowledge for an entity to come in here and to run all of this. Because another group that's really pushing this with Springfield is our environmental groups. They're usually pushing this because they want to reduce carbon emissions. So they've had a huge impact in what the state's trying to do there. They're trying to combine all of that together. But you have one entity that's going to oversight all of this is, in my humble opinion, unimaginable. Is it probably going to happen? I'm going to be frankly say I think it's probably going to happen. Some way, shape, or form. Whatever that structure is going to be. But that gets us to the point of representation. We're going down from 3 to 1. And I think that's a huge concern, especially if it's 5, 5, 3 from the governor's office, and 1 from each of the counties. We are a net donor as it is right now. And there is no question about the fact, and let there be no mistake of anybody's understanding here, that the purpose for doing this is because the state wants security of oversight. But let's understand that the CTA has a huge amount of debt that they are trying to spread out over all of the collar counties. And that's the issue. That's an underlying issue, and the leadership wants to take care of that. And the best way to do it is to spread the debt, right? So that means McKinney County and others absorbing that debt. The other issue that we have to kind of think about is the fact that right now, in the way it's structured by legislative action, is that it requires a supermajority weighted vote to get things through. In other words, even in the RTA, we can't pass anything without 12 votes, right? So you have to have 12 votes. What does that mean? That means that the collar counties and the urban county, the representatives, they've got to work together, right? They got to come to some degree of consensus to pass something, to move it forward. If they go to a simple majority with the representation which has been outlined, that puts us into no better position than, excuse my southern law, but flicking a booger, you know? That's what it is.
You might as well stay home.
We might as well stay home. That's exactly right. So what we must do is to try to work with the proposals to the best of our ability. These bills have been filed. We have been working to try to get, and I say we, Woodstock is down there lobbying right now. The COG has been working with Joyce, and Woodstock has Joyce Narduli and Jessica Narduli representing us as well. We're trying to get an amendment, because this is a recommendation from the chair of the RTA, as I was talking to him, that we quickly put in an amendment to change the representation from Chicago and Cook County from 5 to 3 each. Now, is that going to be the answer? No, but it's a start. And also to amend it so that it does continue to require a supermajority. In this proposal, will there be other proposals? That's what the governor's hoping for. That's what everybody's hoping for. I'm still a little bit pessimistic enough that I think that this is, to an extent, been decided behind closed doors. But, I think it would be appropriate for us to speak in one voice with a resolution by the county board, but I think we need to say, we still understand that this is in discussion and proposal. They're saying that they want to take at least through the summer. They're not planning on having anything decided in veto session in the fall. They're looking at the lame duck session later. But the reality is that things happen, as you say, behind closed doors pretty quickly if that's what they want to happen. So I do think we have to be prepared, and I think we have to make some statements. So I support that. I think that needs to be carefully crafted as we're putting this together so that we are showing the fact that, yes, we understand there's got to be some I use updating and creative effort to try to provide for efficiencies, but at the same time, adequate and appropriate representation. So I'm sorry that I've yammered on for a long time, but I do think that we need to know, first, that yes, this is a challenge. Second, that there's a lot of things going on, very complex issues, a lot of effort behind the scenes, and we need to find our niche to continue to focus.
So Brian, you've obviously looked at some of these, the 5823 and that. And you talked about environmental things. Is that, are they going to be sliding in the semis and everything else on this, the diesel equipment on this? Is that program is up there, but I've heard, but I haven't read this, that was also buried in there also.
I don't know that it's buried in the bill right now, but I don't think that there should be any doubt that that's part of a collaborative, collective effort by the environmental groups with regards to carbon emission. But I can't say for sure.
Disaster economically for this county if that passes.
Can I interject just one other thought?
Yeah, John.
And just so, the only thing that came glaring to me is, and I agree from your conversation and everyone's conversation that something's got to happen, right? But I think that if we could all agree that Pace and Metro serve McHenry County, but CTA doesn't serve anybody but Chicago. And if it did have to happen, to at least agree that Chicago should say Chicago, right? The CTA shouldn't be a part of this. That would be like adding the Chicago Public Schools to, the Crystal Lake School Districts. It doesn't blend. CTA is a Chicago issue. They should keep their own. If we have to merge Pace with Metro or something has to come up that looks like that, so be it, but keep Chicago in Chicago. I think that's something that we should focus on moving forward. But that just my, a knee jerk from a 5-day knowledge of this.
All right, well, all good discussion here and very productive, I actually think.
I think that it would be worthy of us communicating as a committee, since all of us happen to be here today, thankfully, to our staff and through our staff to the chair, that we do think that it's appropriate to have a position statement. We need to develop that, and we need to have that, and we need to be prepared to present that at the right time. But I do think that we need to have consensus that that's an appropriate effort on behalf of this county and this county board, and communicate that so that we can get things rolling.
Do we have any opposition to that?
No.
Mike, you're okay? All right, there you have it.
Mr. Chairman, I want to apologize for sitting down.
No,
My
okay.
legs were giving out, so I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here today. There's so much going on with Metro, and I think you can see that we've got a good working board at Metro. We don't get political, we just talk about the sustainability of this railroad. And again, to me, it is, when I was county board chairman, I never thought how important Metro actually was from the standpoint of McHenry County and the region. Being on the board, I could see so much more, and there is so much future opportunity for McHenry County with this yard and with the opportunity with that Rockford run, which I never thought I'd end up seeing, but it's going to be reality because that money is going to be spent. So I thank you, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to thank Scott Hennig for a lot of the support that he's thrown out. I know it comes from you guys, but he's the point guy that I've been dealing with, and he's doing a hell of a job, and we're going to get some things done. I think the fiscal cliff is out there. They're going to handle whatever they're going to do in Springfield. It's going to take probably 4 or 5 years after they decide whatever they're going to do to merge this whole thing together. It just is not going to happen, immediately. So I think we've got opportunity to still get, some things done. If you got any questions, if you want to go on another tour, if you, whatever, call me. I'll set it up and show you guys what we do. But I appreciate your time.
Ken, I appreciate, and we appreciate the job that you've done representing us.
Right.
For our
Absolutely.
county. You've done a great job, and along with Scott, appreciate that kudos for Scott, because he's the best. And so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So with that, let's move on down here. Old business, 2050 draft plan review.
Yeah, so this is going to be really short. Just wanted to call attention, in your packet, I attached the draft 2050 transportation plan for everyone's review. I promised last month, I kind of did a little presentation last month. I said we're going to bring forward the draft this month so that you have a chance to take a look at it, digest it over the next month, and then on the 29th, it'll be on your agenda for approval or further discussion if needed. And if it's okay with this committee, I'd like to sort of put it out in the public domain for public comment as well. We'll post it to our website. We'll invite people to talk about, their thoughts on the plan too.
Mike?
So two things that I noticed. One, what is a type A crash?
Type A are basically incapacitating crashes, right? So somebody didn't die, but they were taken away not on their own power, right? Usually through an ambulance,
Okay.
taken to the hospital.
Could you make note of what that is? You
Sure.
have type A
Yeah.
part of your charts and stuff. I don't-
In our world, it's common parlance, but I know for most people it's not, so I can easily define
I
that.
have no clue.
We also define type B, type C crashes as well, that type of thing.
Probably
And
your
then-
personality, Mike.
The second thing was, so last month you had talked, we had the different projects up there, and one of them was you kind of said what projects are still relevant.
Mhm.
So, we talked, like the bridge was not as relevant anymore.
Yeah.
But I saw that was still in here.
It's still in here, right?
So how, are we still leaving it in here, but just not saying it's as relevant? Or because
Yeah.
it didn't prioritize those, it just simply had them there.
Yeah, so that, we talked a lot about this internally as staff, and it was hard for us, because these are all sort of long-term projects, and I didn't get the sense at the committee last month that you wanted us to sort of differentiate ones that were higher priorities and ones were lower. Maybe I misunderstood, but I think that's something that if the committee wants us to sort of put greater emphasis on certain projects, and by the way, it's the last page in your packet, so if you want to take a look, that's sort of what we're talking about. we're happy to sort of make that distinction if you think it's important to do so. I think we would need more information. Is it really the Fox River crossings are not as priority for this group, but the other extension projects are higher priorities? Is that sort of the dividing line? So again, I'll be happy to take comments, and we can sort of revise the draft maybe before next meeting. Accordingly.
Well, I guess what I took away from our last meeting was that we kind of did that. We kind of said what was a higher priority versus a lower priority.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was my take of what we did. But I mean,
Well,
I don't want the public to assume that those are all high priorities for us, when in fact, I don't think the committee said that.
Okay. Well, I promise I will re-listen to last month's meeting.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, and it's tough because I don't know if there was consensus. I know I did hear a couple comments from especially you and Mr. Sager about what your priorities were, but you know, I'm looking for you know, enough votes to get this approved by the whole board, right? And is that truly the whole board's perspective on these projects, or you know, individuals' perspective? So again, I'm happy to sort of go back to the drawing board and redo that section of this plan. That's not an issue on my end.
Because you do realize when we get constituent emails, they drill down to the point they're interested, and then comes back on us, and then it's hard for us to say, well, that's actually a lesser priority, or that's a greater priority.
Well, yeah.
And I'm already getting emails too on the stuff that's there, so
Yeah.
a little information's out there.
That project number 4, the Fox River Crossing in Algonquin area, I've gotten 3 calls the last week about that project from residents that live in the area.
Yeah.
And it is hard. You know, these are all, it's a spectrum, right? I'm not saying it's not a priority. It is. It wouldn't be in our plan if it wasn't a priority. But is it really raised to the level of some of these other projects? Probably not. But it's kind of, again, it's a spectrum of where it falls. So. Other than that, though, I mean, I will take a second look at that, and I promise what you'll see next month, we'll have some tweaks to that section of the plan. Otherwise, though, generally, are we on the right track here? Is there a comfort with the rest of the plan beyond that? I want to make sure this committee's comfortable with what I bring forward next month, so.
John, did you have something?
No, I'm scratching.
All right, I'm going to let mine go until next month.
Okay, and
But dates on any hearings or anything?
what's that?
And dates on any public hearings or anything?
So unlike the P&D plan, the comprehensive plan, we're not going to hold a formal public hearing with this. We've brought this in front of this committee 3 times now. We feel like we've done enough public notice around this plan. So really, all you're going to see is it's going to be on next month's agenda for approval, and then it'll go to the county board for their approval in June. That's our plan. And I will, if we do get public comments between now and next month, you'll have a list of what those comments are, and you'll hear from what your constituents want changed in this document too. And if we need to delay it a month, that's perfectly fine with us. Our timeline is very flexible depending on this committee's comfort with the plan. We do want to beat P&D to adopting our plan before theirs, though. So there's a little bit of competition on our end.
I'd only like everyone to look at the electric technology side of it and the impact, just to make sure that we're all on the same page next month when it comes to that section.
Yep. Okay. All right, well, thank you. And again, my email's on the agenda. Call me if you have any other questions or comments, concerns. I'm happy to talk about it with you.
That was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
All right, staff report?
We do have Jasmine here to give an update on Mr.
So I'll set Jasmine up while she's coming up. So we wanted to have on your agenda this month, under routine consent, basically approval of an IGA with PACE for our rideshare subsidy program, basically that Uber subsidy program we had talked about going back to last year. Unfortunately, PACE legal has taken longer than we would have liked, and so we've had to push it another month. So our hope is you'll see something on your agenda on May 29th for approval to get that program up and running in June. That's the hope. Again, we're sort of at the mercy of PACE and their legal review. I'll have to have Tom review it on our end as well, so hopefully the timing works out. But Jasmine kind of wanted to update you on where are we to date, what's changed maybe since we talked about it last, and I'll let her kind of go into some of those.
So on the topic of public transportation, again, like Scott's saying, so currently we're waiting on PACE to finalize the IGA. But since then, we've finalized the program structure, so eligibility requirements, the program parameters. Currently, we're working on our promotional and marketing campaign, so within the next month, it'll start reaching your constituents. We're really going heavy on a postcard campaign, which targets existing MC Ride riders. So all of those riders are already filtered to fit our eligibility requirements. We're currently working with PACE and Metra to get people registered. The website is live, so if you happen to take a look at our website or any of your constituents, they'll see that our enrollment form is on there with details. And other than that, we're just working on informational material, which includes auditorial, visual, and translated information, so English and Spanish. Yeah, that's currently where we're at. We're just kind of waiting on the last call from PACE to get going with that.
Is that it?
Yeah?
Any questions? I have one question on MC Ride.
Yeah.
Comparing to other counties, do they all have similar programs to MC Ride, that they're covering the entire counties?
Yes.
So like Kane County, it covers all of their.
It's sort of a yes and, yes
Yes,
but.
and.
So Jasmine's right. So they have similar programs. A lot of them are geographically as large as ours. However, one big caveat is, like if you take Kane County's program, DuPage County's program, not everyone can ride. You have to be affiliated with a nonprofit agency who wants to subsidize your ride. So for example, if we had the same program like Kane and DuPage have, it wouldn't be the county subsidizing people's trips on transit. It would be Pioneer Center, Family Alliance, Independence Health. They would have their own subsidy program where they would pay PACE to subsidize their clients' transportation needs. Okay? We, the county, could also subsidize whoever we want, but by and large, they have what's called a client-based program, so they need to be affiliated. So somebody who isn't affiliated with any nonprofit but just needs a ride to their work, they'd be out of luck. They couldn't get a ride. And that makes our program very different in structure compared to Kane and DuPage. Lake County is kind of a mix between the two. So in Lake County, they have much more stringent criteria about who can ride, but it's more open than the Kane and DuPage model. So everybody's a little bit different. We're definitely the only county, I can say with certainty, we are the most, I guess, flexible with who can ride, where they can ride. We take a very laissez-faire approach to transit. If you want to ride, go get a ride. We don't care who you are, where you're going, you can get a ride. So that's on the spectrum. Again, it's a spectrum, but we're definitely on one side of that spectrum.
Being concerned for the residents of the county on this, with all of this merger talk and everything else, and that's actually what my question was for, are you concerned this is the low-hanging fruit that might, with the fiscal cliff coming off?
My honest opinion is no. I'm not concerned about MC Ride. I am concerned about everything else. I'm concerned about the fixed routes, the 806, 807, 808, the 550. I'm concerned about the McHenry spur on Metra going away, possibly the end, Harvard maybe losing a station of Metra. I think those are the things that would be cut first. I think everybody in the region recognizes that to serve areas like McHenry County, there's the feeling that MC Ride is sort of the preferred way to do that via transit. But it's these other services, the fixed routes and Metra, that I think would be the first on the chopping block if the fiscal cliff were to come to reality.
Okay. I don't go too much further into it, I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question though, yeah.
Because I know you put so much into this over the years, the county.
And we got a long way to go too. We're not at the finish line yet. We want to keep making improvements. The rideshare program is one such improvement I think that will help these riders. But we got a lot more things to do still.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming again.
Laissez-faire.
I can't let Brian use all the fancy words.
Anything else for staff?
That's it.
All right, we don't have a need for executive session today.
Correct.
Next meeting is May 29th. Alicia's got a little thing, if anybody could stay afterwards, that she's going to, how do you describe this to these guys?
Honor the employees for public service recognition week. So if
Right.
you want to be part of a brief little video, I promise I won't embarrass you too much. Just meet me after the meeting.
All right, thank you. Move to adjourn, Mr. Kaminsky, Mr. Scala seconds, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
Aye, matey.
Kudos for your patience.